There's some serious charges. I mean, putting a gun in his wife's mouth.
The two of the charges you can't even post bond for. I don't understand this man. This guy has completely curtailed any momentum in his career now.
According to police, Thiago Silva threatened people at a jiu-jitsu school, then barricaded himself inside his home.
He originally said he'd never fight in the UFC again. Why'd you take him back?
He said he'd never fight in the UFC again when his SWAT team was around his house and things weren't looking too good for Thiago Silva. Now there's a video. There's a video of what actually happened.
I think Thiago Silva is his own worst enemy.
Surprise, surprise! The king is back!
Thiago Silva was born in São Carlos, a city located in the state of São Paulo, Brazil, a region where economic hardships were common and opportunities were few.
There's a lot of violence where I came from, and a lot of people that dying all the time, a lot of gangs, you know, a lot of drugs and a lot of bad stuff. It's like a jungle. You learn how to fight so you don't be in bad situation, you know.
I used to go to school the mornings and work in the afternoon, you know, because we need money, you know, to survive. My first job, I was 9, working like a body shop, clean auto parts. I used to have bad parents, you know. My dad used to be very crazy. He used to hit me a lot, break my fingers, doing a lot of bad things. So I just decided I have no peace inside the house. I left my house, I was 13 years old. I never come back anymore. And since I left my house, I never see my dad or my mom again. I was 13, I'm 30.
When I started training jiu-jitsu, I saw then I had a future, you know. That's something that I really loved to do.
I started to live with a couple friends, you know.
The only thing I had was a bicycle and my clothes. And I sold my bicycle to get a ticket to the main city, São Paulo.
Thiago moved into one of Brazil's notorious slums, known locally as favelas.
I treated everybody very polite, especially in a place like that. The policy was, I never saw anything, I never heard anything, and that's the way I was going every day there.
Favela, it is the ghetto, you know, but worse the ghetto.
In such an environment, martial arts became more than a pastime. It became an escape.
And then when I finished the high school, I was already training jiu-jitsu. I used to clean the gym training, clean the bathroom, clean the mat, clean everything. The coach, he let me train for free.
A lot of times I didn't have money to pay for the bus, and I had to choose between eating and training. Even sometimes I had to go to the supermarket, open the food, and eat it right there in the store, and take the risk on somebody catching me. But that was my only option.
For Silva, the discipline of Brazilian jiu-jitsu provided structure, while mixed martial arts became the platform where his talents could shine.
I was training at the gym. I just trained like 3 weeks, and my ex-coach told me, okay, you're gonna fight in 3 weeks. I said, how? I don't even know stand up, you know, I don't know boxing, I don't know nothing. I just know jiu-jitsu. It's more than enough. You're gonna fight and that's it. You want the money or not? When I started to compete in Brazil, I started to win a lot of good tournaments in Brazil. And then I started to make a little bit more money, you know. I got off of the favela. I rented my own apartment for the first time in a better area, you know.
Quando eu fui pra São Paulo, eu fui pro ruim mesmo.
Onde foi?
Fui lá pra dentro de Taboão da Serra mesmo, ali na BR-16, no começo da BR-16.
Por quanto tempo lá?
Foi uns 8 meses, mano. Até eu ganhar o Fury.
Ah,
aí,
é?
quando eu ganhei o Fury, eu me levantei. Aí eu saí, vim um pouco mais pra frente.
Caminhei um pouco mais pra frente.
Do barraquinho pra um apartamento.
Aí ficou legal.
Aí melhorou.
And when I finished the high school, I was already training jiu-jitsu and boxing and Muay Thai. I decided to compete, you know.
You have a crazy aggressive style. Where does this crazy aggressive style come from?
From my childhood, you know, I had a hard life back in Brazil.
With his aggressive fighting style and undeniable power, Silva emerged as one of the most promising prospects of his time. However, his career would become a stark example of how talent alone cannot guarantee longevity in the unforgiving world of combat sports. Thiago Silva's professional MMA debut came in 2005, and it didn't take long for his potential to become apparent. Around this time, Silva met his wife, Thaysa Silva, who became a significant part of his journey. She was a supportive presence in his life, often accompanying him to his fights and helping him manage the pressures of his rising career. Their relationship grew stronger as Silva's MMA career progressed, with her playing a pivotal role in providing emotional stability during his ascent in the sport. Fighting in regional promotions across Brazil, Silva displayed a rare combination of raw aggression and technical proficiency. His ability to dominate opponents with striking and ground control quickly garnered attention. attention. After amassing a series of impressive victories, Silva's reputation crossed international borders, leading him to the world's premier MMA organization.
I moved to US. Was 24. The UFC, they invited me to fight here in US because I fought one tournament in Brazil. I did 3 fights at the same night and I won. I did 3 fights here in US, but I was living in Brazil. So I made some good money. So when I moved to US, I had some money in my pocket, you know.
Silva made his UFC debut at UFC 78 in 2007, facing James Irvin. The fight ended in a TKO victory for Silva, showcasing his signature intensity and relentless pressure. This was the beginning of a rapid ascent.
I don't get too many people around. I like to work myself. I like to make my own training. And when I need bodies, I just bring the bodies, you know.
Silva's next 3 fights in the UFC saw him maintain his undefeated record with dominant wins over Tomasz Jawal, Houston Alexander, and Antonio Mendez. Fans were captivated by Silva's ferocity, and analysts began to speculate that he could one day contend for the UFC light heavyweight title. By 2009, Silva held an unbeaten record of 13-0, with all but one of his victories coming by way of stoppage. This incredible run of form positioned him as a legitimate contender in the stacked light heavyweight division. The stage was set for Silva's first major test against Lyoto Machida at UFC 94. However, Machida's elusive style proved to be a nightmare for Silva. A precise counterstrike knocked Silva out at the end of the first round, handing him his first professional loss.
Okay, foi Lyoto.
Pô, aquilo é uma sorte também. Não, mas aquilo dali é impossível acontecer. Cara, você dá um soco a 4,59. É 1 segundo. Tá, você se apresentou bem, uma luta boa. A luta...
Dói, mano, na alma, velho.
Meu Deus, imagina a última.
Tem 2 meses que eu perdi, mano. Indignado.
Então, mas é que tá.
I lost too much weight before the fight, and that caused me to be slow.
He didn't sleep for many days after that fight. It was the first loss of his life.
Despite the setback, Silva's star power remained intact. He had shown enough promise to stay in the conversation among the division's elite. As Silva attempted to regain momentum following the Machida loss, the physical toll of his fighting style began to manifest. Recurrent back injuries plagued his career, limiting his ability to train at full capacity.
What exactly was the problem with the back? Was it the spine?
Yeah, I have a 3 hernia disc on the lower back, you know, and a very bad situation. And that's why I had to take some time off, you know, to take care of.
The injuries dulled Silva's explosive power and hindered his ability to perform at the level fans had come to expect. Losses to top-tier opponents like Rashad Evans and Alexander Gustafsson underscored the widening gap between Silva and the division's elite. Beyond the physical struggles, Silva's career became increasingly overshadowed by controversies outside the cage. In 2011, Silva secured a dominant victory over Brandon Vera at UFC 125, seemingly returning to form.
Ariel Helwani post-fight at UFC 125 alongside Thiago Silva, who defeated Brandon Vera tonight in very impressive fashion. Almost a year since your last fight. How good does it feel to be back on the winning track?
Yeah, year that he's not been fighting because the injuries in the back, but he came to work and that's the place he belongs to.
However, the win was overturned when a post-fight drug test revealed that Silva had submitted synthetic urine, an attempt to mask the use of banned substances. Silva was suspended for 1 year and fined, a punishment that cast a shadow over his accomplishments in the octagon. Another significant controversial moment in Thiago Silva's career came after his fight against Stanislav Nedkov at UFC on Fuel TV 6 in 2012. Silva secured a victory via arm triangle choke in the 3rd round, marking what seemed like a triumphant moment in his return to form. However, the celebration was short-lived. Post-fight drug tests revealed Silva had tested positive for marijuana metabolites. As a result, the Nevada State Athletic Commission overturned his win to a no contest, and Silva was suspended for 6 months.
Another fighter finds himself suspended for using drugs. This time it's Thiago Silva. The UFC released a statement revealing that Silva tested positive for marijuana metabolites after UFC on Fuel TV in Macau, where he submitted Stanislav Nedkov.
He is now going to be sent to rehab by the UFC. I don't understand this man. This guy has completely curtailed any momentum in his career now with the Brandon Vera win, with Stanislav Nedkov.
It wasn't marijuana, it was a marijuana metabolite, which means he could have smoked marijuana marijuana 30 days before his matchup. Well, he just screwed himself out of a victory.
And his purse. And if I were to tell you, John, that 30 days from now, I am going to give you $50,000, and all you have to do for that 50 grand is not smoke a joint, and you can't withstand marijuana for that time period, I would argue you have a bit of an issue then.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's irresponsible, especially if he wants to make the most of his mixed martial arts career. You talk about momentum. I think it's just very irresponsible of Thiago Silva, and I think Thiago Silva is his own worst enemy.
I'm completely with you.
This incident added to Silva's growing list of career setbacks and fueled criticism about his discipline and professionalism. While Silva's suspension stalled his career, his personal life began to unravel. In 2014, Silva became embroiled in a highly publicized domestic dispute involving his ex-wife. Thiago Silva and Thaysa Silva's relationship faced significant challenges that ultimately led to their breakup. Reports indicate that the couple's marriage began to deteriorate due to Silva's accusations of infidelity, particularly her alleged relationship with grappling coach Pablo Popovitch. These suspicions led to escalating tension between the two. The situation came to a head in 2014 when Silva confronted Popovitch at his training facility, leading to a dramatic and alarming incident where Silva reportedly made threats while armed.
Academy that he went into was Pablo Popovitch MMA Academy, again in Orland Park, Florida. No one was harmed physically, but maybe they were harmed mentally. It might catch you off guard a little bit when you're training and you're just doing your thing on a random Thursday night, and then someone walks in armed and threatens you. That could leave a lasting impression on you and your mental state.
This behavior not only resulted in legal trouble for Silva, but also marked the final unraveling of their marriage, leading to Silva's arrest and a temporary suspension from the UFC.
According to police, Thiago Silva threatened people at a jiu-jitsu school in Oakland Park last night, then barricaded himself inside his home.
Now, hours before authorities say they were called about a commotion in Oakland Park where they got reports of a gun-toting man storming inside the Pablo Popovitch Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Center on the 700 block of Oakland Park Boulevard. That's also reportedly where his wife, Thaysa Silva, who's also an MMJ fighter, trains. The focus moved to what we're told is his home.
A SWAT team had to be called in as deputies were trying to get Silva out of his home. No one was hurt.
A few of the charges that he'll be facing, they include aggravated battery with a weapon and resisting an officer without violence. So far, he is facing a few no-bond charges, but he did have a few words for us, as you said, about why he's there in the first place. Take a listen.
Did you pull a gun on your wife? No. Why did you go there? She wanted my money. It was your money. What happened? Tell me my money. She wanted my house. She wanted my money.
And one thing after another, he had the infamous falsified urine test after the Brandon Vera fight, which was overturned. Busted for pot after the Nedkov win. Missed weight in his last fight. And of course, those things not anywhere comparable to this situation, but here now having criminal problems. I mean, Thiago Silva, clearly a domestic situation here, could face time as a result of this.
The UFC has already released a statement saying that, we just don't know the details of everything surrounding the case right now. We've got to get some more facts, but I think the UFC will probably release Thiago Silva. And there's some serious charges. I mean, putting a gun in his wife's mouth, allegedly.
So two of the charges you can't even post bond for, so it's very unlikely Thiago Silva is even released on bail unless his lawyer is able to make some kind of deal there with the court system.
The UFC initially cut him from the organization. UFC President Dana White made a statement at the time, emphasizing the UFC's zero-tolerance policy for such behavior. Silva's contract was terminated immediately after his arrest, reflecting the severity of the situation and the organization's stance on domestic violence and criminal behavior.
Thiago Silva said his ex-wife was a liar. At the same time, you're the UFC, there's some pretty damning evidence out there. Do you want to be attached with a fighter with that kind of baggage?
However, later that year, after the charges against Silva were dropped due to lack of cooperation from witnesses, the UFC surprisingly reinstated him in the organization. This decision was met with public criticism due to the nature of the allegations.
Let's talk a little bit about Thiago Silva. After his domestic violence arrest, you took him back. You originally said he'd never fight in the UFC again. Why'd you take him back?
I said he'd never fight in the UFC again when his SWAT team was around his house and things weren't looking too good for Thiago Silva. If there was some type of video or something like that turned up on Thiago, then yeah, it would be a different story. He went through the process. No charges were filed against him, and they let him go. You're innocent until proven guilty. It did not prove that he was guilty of anything, and the guy walks.
Despite being reinstated, Silva's return to the UFC was short-lived, as the UFC cut him again later in 2014, after further details of his behavior and ongoing controversies emerged.
Now there's a video. There's a video of what actually happened.
Thiago Silva has been cut yet again by the UFC after a number of videos have surfaced online of Silva being filmed by his now ex-wife, where Silva has possession of a gun and at one point cocks the gun. His ex-wife, Thaysa Silva, had left the country, and charges against Silva were dropped in Florida due to a lack of cooperation from Silva, but she has now posted these videos after Silva came out and called her a liar.
So why did they bring him back? I don't understand. That makes no sense to me. You release the guy because of the domestic assault, and then it's like, okay, well, we're confused about the details. We're going to bring him back, and now some other things surface, so you've decided to cut him instead of investigating. It's very, very bizarre.
The controversy was enough for the UFC to sever ties with Silva permanently. These legal troubles tarnished his reputation and marked the beginning of the end for his career at the highest level of the sport.
Thiago Silva's wife, she has now spoke up about the fact that, he has had lots of cocaine use that she believes have been the problems of a lot of this rage that we've seen from Thiago Silva. If this man is in fact, using cocaine, is that not a clear indication to people out there that when your drug test is coming, when to flush this stuff out of your system and do it in a time where it does disappear? And the idea that you test and you're cleared come fight time indicates that you are drug-free. It's a bit of a fallacy.
Of course. When there's money to be made, guys will find a way around the system. That's what it comes down to.
After his release from the UFC, Silva's attempts to revive his career took him to smaller promotions around the world. He signed with the World Series of Fighting, WSOF, in 2014, a move that many hoped would allow him to regain his footing in the sport. However, his performances in the WSOF were inconsistent. Silva suffered a TKO loss to Teddy Holder in his debut, a result that underscored the decline in his abilities. The dominance and aggression that had once defined his fighting style seemed to be fading. Silva's post-UFC career also included stints with promotions like ACB and KSW. While he managed to secure occasional victories, the level of competition in these organizations highlighted the stark difference between Silva's current state and his peak years in the UFC.
New ACB champion Thiago Silva, congratulations. How are you feeling?
I feel great, man.
Are you here to stay with ACB?
Of course, man. I'm so thankful for them, they're so good to me.
Moreover, disputes with some promotions over contract terms and performance issues further sullied his reputation. By this time, Silva's career had become a shadow of its former glory.
How did you manage to sort of end up here at Eagle FC?
Gilbert Burns is a friend of mine. I know him for a long time, since Brazil. He got me this fight, he came with this proposal. He spoke with Ali and Khabib, and I think it was a great fight, it's a great show. Perfect opportunity to come back.
Today, Thiago Silva has stepped away from the limelight of top-tier MMA competition. While he is not officially retired, Silva has largely transitioned to other ventures outside the cage. He has occasionally participated in grappling events and smaller MMA promotions, but has shifted his focus toward coaching and training the next generation of fighters. Silva now operates as a coach at various gyms, sharing his wealth of experience with aspiring martial artists. This transition allows him to remain connected to the sport that defined much of his life, while avoiding the physical toll of competition. In addition to coaching, Silva has also taken steps to rebuild his personal life.
Oh yeah, I have a daughter, 4 months old. She's very cute, very sweet. Everything's doing very well.
What's her name?
Marcella.
Okay, Marcella, good.
Though his controversies once dominated headlines, he has made efforts to stay out of trouble and live a more low-profile existence. While his days as a top-tier competitor are behind him, Silva's passion for martial arts remains evident in his dedication to mentoring fighters and contributing to the sport in a different capacity.
Looking back at your UFC career, what would you say is your favorite memory? Is there a specific moment or fight, or even outside of the cage, a moment that you hold dearest to you?
I like everything, to be honest. I have nothing to regret or to say, oh, I like this better. No, I think I had a great career, I was always an aggressive fighter moving forward. Every time, when I step in the cage, I go and I fight, I don't leave it to the judges, or I don't try to impress people. I just act natural, the way I am, aggressive.
Thiago Silva's story is one of immense potential, hindered by a combination of physical limitations, personal struggles, and poor decision-making. His rise through the ranks showcased the raw talent and relentless drive needed to succeed in one of the most competitive divisions in MMA. However, his fall illustrates how quickly fortunes can change in the unforgiving world of combat sports. The controversies that plagued Silva's career serve as a reminder of the challenges that fighters face both inside and outside the cage.
Fans know you from your time in the UFC. When fans see your name on a fight sheet, how would you hope that people remember your name?
They're gonna remember my reputation. I put the work on it and I make people excited with my fight. And I think that's why people like me.
The physical demands of MMA are immense, but the mental and emotional toll can be just as significant. Silva's struggles with injuries and personal issues highlight the importance of resilience and discipline, qualities that are often the difference between a short-lived career and sustained success. Despite the setbacks and controversies, Silva's early career remains a testament to his skill and determination. His fights were marked by an intensity that made him a fan favorite, and his contributions to the golden era of the UFC's light heavyweight division will not be forgotten. For many fans, Thiago Silva's story is a bittersweet reminder of what could have been. As the sport continues to evolve, Silva's journey serves as both inspiration and caution. It underscores the fragility of success in MMA and the need for fighters to navigate not only the physical challenges of the sport, but also the personal and professional pitfalls that come with fame. Thiago Silva may no longer be the unstoppable force he once was, but his story will always hold a place in the annals of MMA history.